Hello, everyone. My name is Maya J, and you are watching The Maya J Show. I would like to thank you for tuning in to my very first episode. I am super excited to share this journey with you. Since this is my first episode, I would like to make this very special, and some of you have no clue who I am. So today I'm going to share my story with you so that you know this is a safe platform and the person hosting this has been through some hardships, or what I would like to say, lessons in life. So are you ready to get real? Let's do it. My first guest is someone who knows me best and can relate to one of my experiences. She has been with me since day one. Most of everything I've learned has come from her, and she has helped mold me into the woman I am today. I admire her strength, and I hope to continue her legacy. With that being said, please welcome my mother, Cherie. Hi, Mom.
Hi, sweetie.
You look amazing.
Thank you, and so do you.
You know, I had to look right for the
Yes,
queen.
you look beautiful.
I want to thank you for being here. It means so much to me. You're my first guest.
Yeah,
Can you
this
believe
is
that?
pretty amazing. I'm just so proud of you.
Yeah. Well, are you ready to have this conversation?
Yes, by all
Okay.
means.
Let's do it. How are you feeling in this very moment?
Well, first of all, I just am so grateful that you're able to really follow your dreams and do what you've always wanted to do. You know, I think about the time when you took the tour at the CNN Center and you just knew you were going to do this. So this is pretty cool and amazing to be here with you and to share this with you.
I know, because this is something that we've always talked about,
Yeah.
and for it to be happening feels so surreal. And then on top of that, you being my guest, like who would have thought of that? But I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that this, turns out to be a really good success.
I think it will.
Yeah, but it's off to a great start.
Yes.
Being career oriented, you've always inspired me to stay focused and be confident in myself. I want to know who inspired you.
You know, I was fortunate to have women in my family who really encouraged me. Obviously, your grandmother, my mother, was a force to reckon with, believe that every woman should be self-sufficient. And I know there's a lot said about being independent and that kind of thing, but it's important for a woman to be self-sufficient. So I was surrounded not only by my mother, but aunts who did very well in their careers. They were very focused and educated. So I just knew that with all of that surrounding me, that I would be focused as well.
Well, I know Grandma would be very proud of you because you have done some amazing things, and I look up to you.
Thank you.
I hope one day to continue your legacy.
Yeah.
So, when you found out you were having a girl, what did you hope for in being a mother and the relationship you would have with your daughter?
Well, I always knew I wanted to be a mother, and had always said I wanted 2 kids, a girl and a boy, and God blessed us with just that. But having a girl was very special to me. I had such a great relationship with my mother. We were very, very, very close. As you know, she's no longer with us, but we were really, really close, and we were great friends, and I wanted to have that same kind of experience with my daughter. And so we've had our great times, right? And some not so great times, but that's the beauty of mother and daughter.
Exactly.
You're my best friend, and I love it, and that's very, yes, yeah, and you know that, I tell you that, and so that's very special to me.
Well, you're my best friend.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that we're close, because you see some other people and their relationships, mother and daughter, sometimes it's really not that pretty, or they don't even communicate at all. So I'm just glad that me and you have that relationship, and we know that even when we have our moments, that we love each other, and that's all that matters.
Yes.
What is the best memory that you have of us?
Oh my goodness, we have some really great memories. I mean, as simple as just hanging out and listening to music,
Mm-hmm.
and me introducing you to 80s and 90s music and singing songs and dancing in the house and that kind of thing. So, I love simple things with you. But also, we've had fun traveling,
I love
around the
traveling.
world.
Mm-hmm.
That was important to me to ensure that you were exposed. Oftentimes folks don't get an opportunity to be exposed to different cultures. I didn't have an opportunity to travel internationally, but I did it nationally. So that was important. My family wanted to introduce me to, different states and different parts of the United States. And so I thought that was really important for me to share that with you. So also, like going to the Grand Canyon, I thought that was pretty spiritual,
Yeah.
and I really enjoyed sharing that
Mm.
with you. So we have a lot of great memories
I
together.
know. Remember when we went to Paris
I
and
know,
London?
I
That was
know.
both of our first times going. And so I thought that was pretty special that we were both experiencing this for the first time. And then we went to the Louvre and then Beyonce. She did her music video. I was like, oh my God, I know that part. I know that part. So yeah, that was really cool.
It's been a
And
blessing. It's
yeah, it
been
really is. I'm
wonderful.
very
Yes.
grateful that you exposed us to that because now when I have conversations with people and they talk about certain places, I can be like, oh, yeah, I've been there. I know exactly what you're talking about. So
Yeah, that
that's
matters.
amazing.
That matters.
With all the memories that we have, there's one that we went through recently, which is why we're wearing pink. It may not be the best memory, but it definitely brought us closer. In 2020, you were diagnosed with breast cancer. And then the following year, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I would like you to go first and then I'll share. But before you were diagnosed, what symptoms made you want to get checked?
It's really interesting because I've been feeling just fine, no symptoms, no issues, any health issues. But one day I was taking a shower, and in doing so, I felt a lump in my breast. And that felt really odd, really strange to me. And I was just like, okay, I hope this isn't anything major because I do know that you can have cysts in your breast, and but I knew I needed to get it, checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just was nervous because, in all honesty and being truthful, I've had some gaps in having my mammograms, and so I knew that I had not had one in 2 years, and so that made me a little nervous when I felt the lump.
Yeah, I would say for me, it came after your diagnosis. I had felt a small lump in the left side of my breast area. And, I did think, okay, my mom just got diagnosed. This might be my situation too, but I was in denial. So I kind of held back on wanting to get checked. It wasn't until it got larger where I was like, okay, I need to go get checked. And in that whole time, you were telling me, Maya, you need to get checked. You need to get checked. I was like, I know, I know. But I just didn't think I could handle you being diagnosed and me being diagnosed at the same time,
Yeah,
you know?
it's really really hard, but I think, as I stressed to you, I think it's really really important for women, if they do feel something in their breast, to go get it checked out right away and just don't wait.
Can you walk us through the day you were diagnosed?
Well, that was a very difficult day, and being with the doctor and hearing the diagnosis that actually the lump in my right breast that I felt was a tumor. And then I also learned that I had a tumor in my left breast as well. So to be diagnosed with bilateral breast cancer was hard. And I felt when I was in the room as the doctor was talking to me that I was spiraling. Like I wasn't even really processing what the doctor was saying. It was almost like a out of body experience, and I just went numb. Like I just felt numb, and one of the things that I've been raised on is, in a difficult time, I come from a spiritual background, and as the doctor was talking to me, all I was saying on the inside was, Jesus, just be with me. Jesus, be with me. And I was able to get through it, but it was really, really hard processing that, because when you hear cancer, you know, it's just like, that's the end, you know, and, but it doesn't have to be that way. There's just many advances now with breast cancer, but I was pretty numb and out of body that day.
What were the first few days like for you after finding out the news?
Well, I was pretty crushed, you know, obviously the first day, but I'm also a very action oriented type person. So, you know, after I had my cries and feeling, you know, down, I knew I had to take action. So I started researching everything that I possibly could find, was Googling, I got a lot of paperwork from my doctor at the time. So I started researching everything, the types of meds that I would eventually be taking and all of that, because I knew that I had to have the right frame of mind, as they say, mind over matter.
Yeah.
I knew I had to just move into an action mindset, because I wanted to beat it.
Yeah, see, for me, I did the complete opposite. I just kind of went still. I was just trying to process everything that was about to happen. I start overthinking a lot. So I'm just like, oh my God, am I going to die? Like, what's going to happen to me you know, down the road? So, you know, for me, I like that you did, you know, use that energy and start researching. I did a little bit of that myself, but you know me, I was just so caught up in that fact that I have cancer. So I was going to ask you, did you deal with depression?
Yeah, I did. Throughout my treatment, I did. And early on, I did as well. So that's very real. And you go through different stages. And for me, you know, as you grow older, you know that your health could diminish and things can happen. But I could see how you could feel that way, because you're young. I mean, being in your 20s, it's such a phenomenon for this to be happening to young women.
But you're young too.
I know, but still, you know, as you get older, you know things will happen. But when you're in the prime of your life, to, you know, be faced with that's hard. That's really, really hard.
Yeah. How did you feel when you found out I was diagnosed?
Oh my God, that was like a gut punch. I just, you know, I'm a spiritual person, and so I usually don't question my faith, but I have to be honest on that. I questioned it, you know. You know my story. I've been through a lot in terms of loss, with losing my mother and father in my 20s, and, you know, just going through a lot. And for this to be happening to you, it's just like, God, you know, because I've always said that I just couldn't handle it after losing my parents. If something happened to my children, it would just be so hard for me to try and deal with it. So your diagnosis really put me in depression. I was really, really, really sad. And but once again, you always go to that spiritual place to know that we can go through this together. We're going to walk through this together. We'll make it on the other side. But it was really hard.
That's why it was so hard for me to tell you in the first place, because I know that you've dealt with a lot in your life, like you were explaining with grandma and grandpa and then yourself. So I hesitated, but I knew I had to tell you. But when I did, I could tell that it hurt you a lot. Can you tell us how chemotherapy was for you?
Well, that was hard. So my treatment was a 3-treatment plan with chemo, lumpectomy, and then radiation, right? But I would have to say, of the last 2 procedures, the chemo was extremely hard, because the thing about chemo is when you start it, it's not so bad, but as chemo is compounded in your body, you get sicker and sicker and sicker. So that was really, really hard. There were days that I couldn't get out of the bed, couldn't move. And I was depressed. Chemo was the hardest part.
Because you like to move.
Yeah, you know, I'm outgoing and like to go and do things. And so being, you know, not being able to get out and and go and really enjoy life was really, really, really hard. And as you go through the process, losing your hair and all of those things, that was really hard. So chemo was the hardest. Actually, I've heard people say that radiation can be difficult. I think for me, because I had to take radiation longer than chemo, it was just the time going through weeks and weeks and weeks of chemo. I just felt worn down. So psychologically, radiation impacted me, but physically, chemo was just really, really hard. You have no appetite, or if you do try and eat, you can't keep it on your stomach, and it's just really, really hard,
Yeah, I would say the same thing, that it was really hard for me to get out of bed, and especially touching on food, like the appetite. It was hard because anything I would eat, like I would, throw it up. It was just hard for me to keep it down. And so, what advice would you give to anyone preparing for that, for chemo?
Oh, wow. For myself, I like to read. And so, I went out and got books that were inspirational, just to help me with my mindset, because I think the mind is just so important when you've got a really hard journey like that to get through. I also bought a journal so that I could journal what I was going through, and writing and reflecting really does help me process, if you will. But I'd say, really work on the mind. Your body is stronger than you realize, because I hadn't had any really health issues until, I had hard pregnancies with you and your brother. But other than that, had been pretty healthy in my life. And so, I think also too, be an advocate for yourself, because I questioned my doctor about my treatment plan because I had done so much research and requested a certain medication. So be an advocate for yourself. Oftentimes you can be intimidated when you're in a medical situation, because although I'm educated, I know nothing about medicine, if you will. And so you feel as though you just have to accept whatever. But I'd say no, research, study. There were drugs that I recommended to my doctor, and I was adamant about one particular drug that I wanted to be on. And it actually became a drug that my doctor later said was the right way to go. So be an advocate for yourself. Don't be intimidated because you're not a medical professional, but study, get your information, bring your information into the doctor's office, talk with your doctor very intelligently about what's going on. And you don't just have to accept it.
That's so true. You prepped me for that because I had no idea what to ask. I was like, so am I gonna be good? I'm very simple, and you're like, no, you need to make sure they're certified in this and that. I was like, yeah, you're right. And then also just preparing yourself to go to, your appointment. I mean, there were things that I was learning, like you had the socks and the blanket because it gets really cold. And so, I would, advise anybody just to make sure that you have socks. That got me through. It was so cold in that place.
But you know how I got that? And I would suggest this. I went onto YouTube and looked at, because a lot of women put their stories out there, which is just so beautiful. So I went out on YouTube and watched videos of other women who had gone through breast cancer treatment as well, and learned from them. So there's a community out there that can help you with all of those suggestions and how to get through it.
So, going through chemo, there are some side effects. How was it like losing your hair?
Well, obviously the hair is the crown, particularly for a woman. And, with coming from a background of someone who did hairstyling and all of that. So, you really do love your hair and you want to look beautiful, if you will. So it was hard losing my hair, and I actually started to lose hair after the third cycle of,
Same, that
of
was for me.
chemo. And my doctor had prepared me for it and said, you're going to start seeing, as you comb your hair, patches will start to come out. And that was pretty scary, and so I got to the point where the hair was so thin that then just had it shaved off. And actually, shaving off my head and going bald was actually empowering.
So you
if
shaved?
you will.
You
Yeah,
took the clippers?
yeah.
Oh.
And so that was pretty empowering, but then you because you have to realize that you're more than your hair. You have this heart, you have this soul and this mind.
That's when it hit me, is when I lost
Yeah.
my hair. I was pretty numb before. I mean, of course, I shed a few tears and all of that. But when I lost my hair, that's when it really hit me that, wow, I have cancer. Because people really tie, like you losing your hair to cancer, like as one of the big side effects, what you can tell when someone's going through it. And so I remember FaceTiming my best friend, Dane, and showing him my hair, and I just broke down. Just seeing him, because seeing his reaction made it real to me. What was the hardest part for you during this process?
The hardest part was just seeing the changes in your body, from, like you said earlier, losing your hair. I lost weight. I lost quite a bit of weight, if you will. And seeing your nails change and, all of that.
Yeah, my nails changed.
Yeah.
You saw.
I know. Well, that's the chemo. And so getting used to the drugs and how the drugs were changing your body, that part was really hard. Going through the lumpectomy wasn't hard. That actually was a pretty straightforward process. And, like I mentioned earlier, radiation, physically, radiation didn't get to me as much, but it did get to me mentally, because I would be sitting on the radiation table and, the beams of radiation is going through your body. And I would just be sitting there thinking, my goodness, this is really hard. This is really, really tough. But I'm also somebody that will kick in and say, okay, this is hard, but other people have even harder things that they're dealing with. And so you just got to get yourself through this, if you will. So, but the hardest of the hardest was chemo. I have my hats off to anyone who has to go through chemo, because that's very, very hard.
It is so hard. I wouldn't wish that on my enemy, because it is not something that you can just easily get through. And like you said, watching yourself kind of transform into a whole different person was really hard for me. I think the hardest part, though, was, we live in this social media era, right? So you see everybody doing this and doing that, and meanwhile, I'm just at home. Not doing anything, and I can't tell anybody. I didn't feel like I could tell anybody or share that online because I'm getting emotional. But it was just tough, just seeing everybody just live their life.
Yeah, I remember having that conversation with you about your friends or enjoying life and doing things, and here you are dealing with it. And because you called me that day because you were having a really tough day, and I wanted you to know that you were going to get past this. This was a test in your life that would turn into a testimony, as I say all the time, that we will have these tests in our lives that will just, make us, it just throws us back. But I wanted you to be encouraged, and I was trying to be as strong as I possibly could. But after I get off the phone with you, I'd go in the room and cry and pray and just ask God to help you get through it, for you not to be so discouraged about things and not to have hope. I really wanted that for you, because I knew it was just so hard.
So let's get on to some good news.
Okay.
How did you feel when you were told that you are cancer free? How did that feel?
Oh my gosh, that was just the weight of the world being lifted. And I know we talked earlier about my faith, but I knew that I had some very dark times throughout my life, and my faith got me through it. And it was just having that strong belief, but it was like the weight of the world and was off my shoulders. And my doctor, I had my doctors and staff. I just had such a really great medical team, and they were so encouraging as well. And I remember when my doctor came in and said, your pathology report just looks excellent. You responded very well. And I just said, thank you. Thank you, Jesus.
I was so happy.
Yes, yes. And I remember calling you
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of the family and saying, I'm a survivor. Yeah.
And I will say that was hard though, because I wish I was there with you. See, the whole thing is that we were going through this, and you were on one side of the country and I was on the other, you know. But when you told me that, I just wanted to give you a hug.
Well, we did, we got virtual and all of that. So that worked out. But yeah, it's just a blessing. So I say that to encourage those that are going through it, that you can get a end state that is that works out, and you can survive it. But we also know that many women don't survive it, if you will. But I just am so thankful for the advances in drugs, because this particular drug that I was on actually was in trial. So it was not for the type of cancer that I had, it was not being used readily.
Do you remember the name?
I don't want to say the name because I don't want to advertise a particular drug, but the advances in the drugs for breast cancer is much better now. So the prognosis for a woman is much better. So I was just really thankful to my medical team for getting me through it.
Yeah. I felt the same way. I was so happy when they told me. I was like, thank you. Yes. And I was recovering from surgery too. So I was like, I got some good news while I'm over here healing too. So I'm just so happy that, we made it through.
We have
because a lot of people don't. A lot of people do die from this. And so, that was tough to think about, but I'm glad that it turned out well for both of us. Was it hard trying to feel normal again? Getting back to yourself?
Well, when you go through something as serious as that, it changes you. You can't say that it doesn't. So, but it changed me for the good, in the sense of, it makes you think about how fragile life is, because like I said, I didn't have any symptoms. I was going through life, enjoying, traveling, having fun, all of that. And in a moment, life can just drastically change. And so that's how it's made me be just grateful for every single day, not to take anything for granted. The time that I share with you and your brother and other family members, to really embrace that, because you just don't know how long you have on this planet, if you will. So it changed me in that way. It made me reflect a lot more, if you will. And it also gave me a sense of urgency, because you don't know how much time you have. So you want to make the best of your time and be as productive as you possibly can with the time that you do have,
Are you scared of it coming back?
There is a possibility that cancer can recur, just based on how the cells regenerate. But I'm hopeful that it does not come back. And if it does, I'll be prepared with the suit of armor that I need to have to get through it. But yeah, that does, I would be less than honest if I said I'm not worried, because it can come back, and so, with my situation, I have to take a mammogram every 6 months, and a CT scan or MRI, because the first couple of years is a critical point in terms of cancer recurring. So yeah, I do think about that. And when I do go and take the various tests and so forth, I'm just praying that hopefully everything will be okay.
Same. I'm pretty scared too, just because there are still some things in my life that I haven't done yet. Like, for instance, have children, so I just hope that if it does come back, I'm able to at least get through that chapter for a while.
And I feel that so for you too, baby. We've talked about that so much that for me, I've had a great life. And so even if the prognosis would not have worked out, I was thankful because, with losing my mom, when I did, after I turned in my 40s, I was counting every year. I was just thankful that I was getting through every single year because I didn't know if I would make it to a much longer kind of runway. And I was disheartened for you because I wanted you to have all of those experiences of, getting married, having children, just what you wanted in life. And but we got to stay, as I always say, prayed up, right? And
it'll all work out in the end.
It will. It will.
Would you say that is what you learned from this?
Yeah, I did, and I know without a doubt that this gave me greater confidence. I don't know how you feel about it, but because I had been through a lot, it gave me the confidence to know I can deal with almost anything, because to be able to go through chemo, then surgery, then radiation, and all of those hard days, there is nothing that really gets to me in a way of me being intimidated now. I wear this badge of I'm a survivor. I got through that. And so it gave me a different sense of confidence than what I had
I'll say
prior to it, right?
I definitely became more confident.
Yeah.
Because you just have to. Like, if you can go through something like that, like, what is there to be fearful about moving forward? We went through one of the hardest things, or maybe the hardest things. I mean, I know that you've dealt with the loss of losing your mother and your father, so I know that that's really hard. But cancer, and especially grandma passing from cancer, that's just tough. And so with all the things that we've been through, like, we cannot be fearful anymore. Well, what advice can you give to anyone who is currently battling cancer?
First, don't give up. Don't see it as just, this is a sinking ship. There is no way I'm going to get past that. So just, encourage yourself that you can get through it, if you will. And also, whatever spirituality works for you, something, it could be Zen, it could be meditation, it could be whatever it is. Find something that centers you and grounds you in a way, because you got a battle. You have got a battle that you've got to go through in your treatment plan. So you really do need something that is going to ground you in a way to get through it. I'd also say look at your diet, because the things that I learned was about how the foods you eat and how that can also contribute to cancer, if you will. And as they say, eat a plant, because a plant can crush cancer. And that's really about eating more vegetables and salads and that kind of stuff. So I'd encourage, to really think about your eating habits, because love pizza, love wings, love all those carbs, but those carbs are not as healthy. So relook at your diet, and have your community, and research and advocate for yourself.
That's great advice. I can totally agree. Well, I am so happy that we were able to have this conversation. This was a real beautiful conversation, and to have it with my mother,
Yeah, but we've gone through. We are, as we always say, we're ride or die, right?
I know.
Ride or die. We're there for each other, and I'm so happy to be here with you today as well. seeing you fulfill your dreams. And so I kept telling you, you know, you can get on the other side of this. You'll get on the other side of this. And look at you now,
Exactly.
right?
Look
You
at
made
us.
it. Yes, we made it. So I'm grateful to be here with you as well.
Well, thank you so much for being on my show. I love you, Mom.
I love you too, sweetie.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to stay up to date on what's happening next, please subscribe to my channel. Also, like and share this video. I hope to see you all soon. Goodbye.